You're listening to WGS 91.5, The Eagle. Welcome to Media in the Making, a podcast where we look at the evolution of media from 1600 all the way to present day. In this podcast series, we will ask, how have different forms of media evolved and changed culture? Media in the Making, where media and culture are always changing. Now let's take a step back in time. The typewriter is one of the best inventions for its time. Not only did it do a lot just by itself, but it made other people think about other inventions, like the keyboard and other technology things. Did you know we use the same order for the keyboard as the typewriter? Also, the very first typewriter looked like an alien made it.
The man who invented this masterpiece, the time was Christopher Latham. Well, Mr. Latham here had some help with many other people. These people either improved it or just had really good ideas for the typewriter. Christopher first was a printer working in Milwaukee. He was working on a machine called the Paginator. It was a machine to type only numbers on papers. His friend Carlos Gooden shows him this magazine article about a machine called Pterotype. That was the machine that inspired Christopher to make the typewriter. Also, the original purpose of the typewriter was to help the blind. Many earlier typewriters were developed to enable the blind to write the typewriter. It was an all-American invention that was created in Milwaukee. Typewriters made media changes for the good. It made future inventions spark. It also gave everyone new jobs, especially females. A lot of women were typers for documents and newspapers. It also changed the way newspapers and others type of the media in the 1800s. Also, it reduced the time and expense involved in creating documents. It allowed a system of communications that shaped the business world.
Now let's get more into how it works. One of the downfalls of the typewriter is that it can only type in uppercase, but I'm sure at the time they didn't really care or think about that. The keyboard for the very first typewriter was an ABC order, and that did not work too well. Also, the first few typewriters were pretty loud. The first one that was not loud was the Noden typewriter. The cool thing is, Noden stands for no sound. The keyboard keys are in a certain order, so the typing arm does not hit, because some people just type so fast, and it got all tangled. It's kind of cool that we use the same order of keyboard keys for the computer and iPhones, and they just put it in a random order. Also, over time, typewriters became more user-friendly with softer keystrokes and better angle to the eyes and hands. Also, multicolored ribbons. Now, let's see what the typewriter did for culture.
We can give credit to James Dinsmore for improving the typewriter the most in the late 1800s. And what he did was made the typewriter a booming success in the 1880s, with him improving the crude machine multiple times to even reach the success he needed to make the machine better, faster, and more reliable. Like we said before, the typewriter opened up a bunch of jobs. A lot of the females especially got jobs. Back then, it was a job for the females. It was an office job. They would type out government files, letters, filling out forms, and creating transcriptions. Typewriters also solved illegible writing, also helped manufacturers' business office grow in tandem with faster production and more expensive transportation networks, which basically means people could write faster and experience less fatigue, and that saved workers a lot of time. Newspapers especially, they could spread news a lot faster because they could. They could produce more information faster, more paper because they go a lot faster. The typewriter was being used in the early 1800s and can be used till today, but over the past years, many have invented and or improved other things. They either invented something that's like a typewriter or improved it over the years, but one of those inventions that were close or would be close today is the first computer made in the mid-1830s. But at the time, the typewriter would be better, but the computer had way more room to improve. And so, take the typewriter's position. The typewriter gave many really good ideas and more to expand on in this time frame. There are many ways the typewriter can be improved, and people made sure they did. So, the typewriter was definitely a huge source in the 1800s and made people's lives a lot easier and could get written papers done quicker. The typewriter was a good duo with the print and press. Well, because the papers that were written could be in print and press to make a mass amount of written papers, and was easier as we talk about The typewriter here comes to an end, and all the info we provided about such a fancy invention back in the 1800s. We learned that the typewriter had many different uses throughout its time. Also, that at the time it helped a lot with the people of the world. I hope you guys learned more about the typewriter. Thank you for listening.